Assalamu alaikum and welcome everyone. My name is Lauren Waugh. I'm with the Australian High Commission and it's my pleasure to welcome everyone. Whether virtually or in person, to the launch of the Increasing Women's Representation in Law initiative. Thanks so much to those of us who are able to be here in person today at the Australian High Commissioner's residence, but especially the Honourable Minister for Law and Justice, Farah Naseem. And thanks also to everyone who is able to participate remotely today. The Australian High Commission is very delighted to be supporting this, and we've got a very interesting discussion lined up. So first I'm going to hand over to His Excellency, the Australian High Commissioner, Dr. Jeffrey Shaw.
Thank you, Lauren, and colleagues, welcome to the residence. For those joining virtually, it's wonderful to be part of this conversation. Indeed, it's a real pleasure for me to be able to support this initiative. But firstly, of course, I want to thank you, Honourable Minister Dr. Naseem, for being here today, and of course, Parliamentary Secretary Malika Bukhari. It's a pleasure to have you and welcome you to the residence. Thank you. As I say, and as Lauren mentioned, it's very much a delight for the Australian High Commission to be hosting today's event and to providing support for what I think is a really critical initiative, and that's increasing women's representation in law. For those who don't know, Australia's Foreign Minister is also Australia's Minister for Women, Marise Payne, and she has placed gender equality at the very centre of Australia's foreign policy and overseas aid programs. And indeed, gender equality is one of the 5 key pillars of our international human rights agenda. It's been a core priority while we've been on the Human Rights Council, and it will remain a core priority going forward. At home and abroad, Australia takes a multi-pronged approach to closing the gender gap, focusing on increasing girls' and women's access to basic public services, promoting women's economic empowerment, and enhancing women's voices in policy frameworks and institutions. Here in Pakistan, we've been actively promoting equality and the rights of women and girls as a core policy priority for us, and it's central to all of our work. Some examples including in our development assistance program, for example, we've been working with Pakistani businesses to adapt their value chains, and that has helped over 88,000 women working in the agriculture sector to earn an income, but importantly at the same time while lifting business profits by an average of 10%. We've been working with Oxfam and will soon launch an animated TV series in Sindh to challenge the stereotype that young girls and women belong at home. We also are ensuring gender parity through our Australia Awards scholarship programs, and that's been a long-standing policy position. And that brings me to this initiative, increasing representation of women in legal institutions, whether as lawyers, as judges, academics, members of the bar, or in other capacities, has a number of benefits for society. Firstly, of course, it promotes women's economic empowerment in the legal sector. This goal is consistent with our support to the Male Champions of Change Pakistan chapter. It's an initiative in which male CEOs commit to building women's leadership in their own companies, but across society more broadly. It's also important supporting this initiative because it's increasing women's representation also enhances the role of women's voices in legal institutions. For an inclusive legal sector is critical if justice systems are to respond equitably to the needs of women and children. So I want to congratulate the implementing partners, the Group Development Pakistan and the Women in Law Initiative Pakistan. I know that this initiative is a culmination of a lot of hard work and planning. And so I'm very pleased, of course, that this initiative has the strong backing and support of the Ministry of Law and Justice. Thank you. So thank you to all the participants for joining us online today and for your willingness to engage on this important issue. We at the High Commission are very much looking forward to continuing to work with you all as the activities planned under this initiative come to fruition over the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you very much, High Commissioner. We'll now hear from the respected Deputy High Commissioner of the British High Commission, Alison Blackburn.
Thank you very much, Lauren, and thank you very much to the His Excellency, the Australian High Commissioner, and to the High Commission team here for the invitation. Delighted to be part of this event, and the British High Commission is delighted to be part of this collaborative effort with the Australian High Commission and with the Pakistani government, and I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to meet the Honourable Minister and the Parliamentary Secretary in this effort for women's empowerment, and specifically their increased representation in the justice system. This is a really important effort. We'd like to commend the efforts of the Australian High Commission and their commitment to women's empowerment, and also for the commitment of the Honourable Minister and his team on this, including in efforts to improve access to justice through rule of law reform, and particularly promoting justice for children. We think this sets a really excellent example of public-private partnership to address the gender gap in the legal profession of Pakistan. So we're very pleased to contribute to these efforts to making the legal profession more gender inclusive, which of course we hope will encourage more public access to the formal justice structures for cases of violence against children and gender-based violence. And we hope that this will pave the way for child and gender-sensitive justice and improving overall the rule of law here in Pakistan. So we hope that this partnership, which we're marking today, will foster new opportunities for increased participation of women and inclusivity within the justice system. And again, thank you very much for the invitation. Very pleased and proud to be here and to contribute to this really valuable project. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy High Commissioner. And now we'll turn to the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Law and Justice, Malika Bukhari.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Excellency, the Deputy High Commissioner, for being here. I think this is an important moment for the advancement and empowerment of women in the legal profession across our country. The data is out on representation of women, and we know that Pakistan has very few High Court judges, no women in the Supreme Court as we speak today. There has only been one woman federal law minister as we speak, and there has been no Attorney General for women in our country. So of course there's a dire need for us to address this gender gap in the legal profession, and I'm glad that we're here today launching this very important initiative, because this is for the first time in the history of the Ministry of Law and Justice that we're collaborating with Women in Law and Group Development Pakistan with your kind support to identify the critical role, contribution of women in the legal profession, because women play a very critical role in our profession, and I think it's an area that is not highlighted enough, not talked about enough, and therefore we don't see women represented in the profession at the higher tier in equal numbers. I would like to thank the Law Minister for always being foremost in our joint quest for gender equality, and to you, Your Excellency, for your kind support and for always coming forward, and also to Lauren for organising everything and for always being there in her support on this initiative. I think as a female lawmaker and a lawyer, I'm cognizant of the importance of recognising the achievements of women in our country, and also quantifying them, and also ensuring that women have a place always on the decision-making table. I think it is my utmost honour and privilege to be part of this very important initiative that the Ministry of Law and Justice is jointly supporting with Women in Law and Group Development Pakistan. The Ministry of Law and Justice has led a very progressive law reform agenda in our 100 days of government. The Ministry of Law and Justice, under the leadership of the Law Minister, enacted some very important pieces of legislation. We talked about it earlier. We drafted an important piece of law on protecting women's inheritance rights, and then an important piece of law on legal aid that has a special clause in it that gives preference to women and children who are victims of sexual violence, and so on and so forth. And as we advance, we have more laws that we want to enact that identify and protect and advance the rights of women and girls across our country. So this project is just another step forward in our vision and commitment to ensure gender equality within the legal profession and across our country. And I'm very hopeful that together we will all make an important difference in ensuring that women are equally represented in the legal profession. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those words, Malika. And now I believe we're playing a video that's been prepared previously. So bear with me while I organise the screen here. Where is it?
We get used to doing a lot of meetings now,
Yes.
and inevitably there's a problem. Not quite the same as having face-to-face discussions, I find. Sitting down over a cup of tea.
So we are starting to do virtual visits from London, which is a whole...
Oh,
That's a whole new area.
That's a whole new...
I think we can send her a bit better first. All right, it now gives me a great pleasure to introduce Nida Usman Chaudhry, who is the founder of the Women in Law Initiative Pakistan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Lauren. Honorable Law Minister, Ministry of Law and Justice, Barrister Dr. Mohammad Farouk Naseem, His Excellency, the Honorable High Commissioner from Australian High Commission, Dr. Jeffrey Shaw, the Honorable Deputy High Commissioner, British High Commission, Ms. Alison Blackburn, Honorable Parliamentary Secretary, Ministry of Law and Justice, Barrister Malika Bukhari, Consultant Ministry of Law and Justice, Barrister Amreen Abbasi, Executive Director, Group Development Pakistan, Valerie Khan. It is an absolute honor for me to introduce our project, Increasing Women's Representation Law, before you today. A cause that has taken years of labor and persistence to curate, for it to have reached a point from where we are set to make a stride towards a more inclusive and equal legal profession with your support. Women Law Initiative Pakistan was established in 2016 to work for equality of opportunity and connectivity of female lawyers. We now have 3 chapters in Punjab, KPK and Islamabad, and links with sister associations based in Karachi and elsewhere. In the 4.5 years of our establishment, we have conducted over 20 sessions and workshops covering both key professional skills as well as creating awareness around issues faced by women, such as on understanding harassment and gender-based violence. A working group from amongst us proposed amendments to the Maternity Leave and Benefits Ordinance to push for daycare centres and maternity leaves for all mothers, whether they are contractual or full-time, or whether they are working as professionals or as labourers. At our community level, we continue to support each other in professional endeavours through an effective query redressal mechanism and to refer job opportunities, clients and cases to lawyers, including pro bono cases by effective liaison and internal communication. Our objective behind striving for this inclusion and equality in the legal profession has always been about advancement of legal profession towards higher standards rooted in notions such as equality, justice, non-discrimination, fundamental rights, all these concepts which are basically the foundation of our legal system. As you've all seen in the video, the numbers as regards representation of women are quite disconcerting. So it's absolutely imperative that we address this disparity, because representation matters, perspectives matter, and this diversity matters. And until such time that we have our legal institutions more reflective of this diversity, we will continue to lack benefiting from these diverse perspectives that can truly transform our justice sector for all, because we believe that access to justice will improve with more representation of women in leadership roles within the legal profession. Now, with this thought in mind, I am very pleased to welcome you all for the signing of the tripartite understanding between the Ministry of Law and Justice, Group Development Pakistan, and myself representing Women in Law Initiative Pakistan for implementing this project, sponsored by the Australian High Commission and co-sponsored by the British High Commission. Without your support, none of this was possible. So thank you very much for that. We are very grateful. Under this project, the Women Law Awards shall be institutionalized to recognize excellence and contribution of female lawyers and those entities which scale high on the Diversity and Inclusion Index. We will also hold a symposium on increasing women's representation law to solicit research-based input for future reform work and set up a Women in Law web app and portal as a permanent and universally accessible platform for and of female lawyers. We hope that through this project, we're able to highlight the achievements and contributions of female lawyers, amplify their voices, and work together to address the structural imbalances that hold women back in the profession. I would like to take this opportunity to commend the unprecedented endeavour on part of the Ministry of Law and Justice to join hands with us for institutionalizing a transformative process towards advancement of legal profession via our public-private partnership. Because as for the first time in Pakistan, increasing women's representation law will be undertaken as a comprehensive initiative in collaboration with the federal ministry. It is hoped that such a historical step will pave the way for more gender and child-sensitive sexual reforms towards creating a more inclusive, more equal and a more enabling environment for women and children to access justice and their fundamental rights, particularly in times of crisis such as the COVID-19, which has rolled back on the limited gains made in relation to gender equality over decades. As the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has also stated, we must put women and children at the center of efforts by governments to recover from COVID-19. That starts with women as leaders, with equal representation and decision-making power. Therefore, the Ministry's commitment to the cause of gender parity and improving access to justice to fulfill Pakistan's obligation on its constitution and international instruments, with support from the Australian High Commission and the British High Commission, is much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Neda. And now I'll ask Ms. Valerie Khan, Executive Director of Group Development Pakistan, to briefly speak about the project also.
Right. Well, I think most has been said, actually. So I just would like to thank Your Excellency for the support, the British High Commission for being there. And most significantly, I remember that the Honourable Minister for Law and Justice was the only one, the most brave one, to agree to face 120 children to directly ask him questions on rule of law, child and gender justice, and he really made an astonishing task. And I would like to point out here that he did not only commit, and that's very important, within the next few hours, in the middle of the night, actually, we had that message, now, how can I help? He sent a group message like that, I definitely want to help. And I think by next week, we're going to inaugurate the first specific child court in Islamabad, which I know you lobbied and you were the one behind the federal cabinet to agree to establish it. So thank you for being there for children. Thank you for being there for women's representation in law, whom we know is critical to a gender and child-sensitive dispensation of justice. Behind that, we have female champions and heroes who are there to remind our male champions also that we need to do more. To me, I think it's a message of, hope with tangible change, and I think it embodies the true statement of Khadija and Muhammad Ali Jinnah we started the video with. That's very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it now gives me great pleasure to introduce our final speaker, the Honourable Minister for Law and Justice, Dr. Farah Nassim. Minister.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Jeffrey Shaw, the Australian High Commissioner, Ms. Alison Blackburn, the Deputy High Commissioner of the UK, of course, my Parliamentary Secretary, Ms. Nida Chaudhary, Lauren Waugh, and my dear sister, Valerie Khan. And thank you very much for inviting me and listening to me, talking to us. What I can assure you is that at the Law Ministry, till such time I am there, till such time my colleagues, Ms. Bukhari and our consultant barrister Amdeen Abbasi, till such time we are there, we have promised to ourselves a very robust women and children empowerment agenda for legal reforms, for any practical actions that are required from our end. And I think I've met you before, I've met you, ma'am, before, and of course, my dear sister Valerie interacts with us quite frequently. What I can say is, 30 years ago when I started the legal profession, things were very different to those that are now. And we hardly had any women lawyers in the country at that time. And now there is a change. There are women who being properly educated, good educational backgrounds, such as Ms. Chaudhary is there, Malika Bukhari is there, Amreen is there. And there are many women who are traveling abroad to study in England, becoming barristers. My own daughter is a barrister from England. And I did not discriminate between my son and my daughter. Both went to the UK to get their legal educations. So yes, these programs are very good. They create awareness that women are to be represented in the legal profession, at the bar and at the bench, at the bar councils and the bar associations. And in the lower courts, yes, the situation in the superior courts is bad in terms of representation, but in the lower courts is not bad. It's pretty good in terms of civil judges, magistrates, additional district and session judges and district judges, and some of the women that I have interacted as a lawyer and a law minister who are judges are brilliant judges. There was a complaint a long time ago, 3 decades ago, when I started the profession, when you would talk to senior judges, and they would talk in terms of capacity of women lawyers. But now slowly that is being addressed. The good women who are entering the profession, educated, they understand issues, and so this has to be a two-pronged attack from our side and from your side and from your side. One is awareness, and second is capacity building. So if there is a superior court judge in the high courts and in the Supreme Court, and just because someone is a woman, but she doesn't understand how to perform her duties as a superior court judge, then we should not encourage that. We need to build the capacity of women, so when they are inducted and elevated as superior court judges, there's no person who can turn around and say that this woman, since she's a woman, she doesn't know what she's doing. We don't want such sexist comments being made by anyone. And if we are really sincere to gender parity, then we need capacity building of women lawyers. I work very closely with this group of lawyers called Pavla in Karachi, All Pakistani Lawyers Association. And some of them are great lawyers. I think I've invited them to the law ministry. I've discussed about them with you. So that is an initiative with which I have been involved since the last 3 decades. And that particular association, Pavla, it has held seminars and capacity building workshops for women. So we need a lot of that to happen, and we need to encourage women to improve their capacities. Of course, we need to do that for men also, but I'm trying to choose words. You know, as we talk right now, today, I've had interaction with 3 Chief Justices of the Supreme Court, and all of them, including the present Chief Justice, they are all eager and willing to have a woman Supreme Court judge, have more than one. The Constitution and the law in Pakistan, that is not anti-women. So as far as the content is concerned of the law and the Constitution, it does not discriminate between men and women. But of course, we have to change mindsets. But I don't say, and I cannot say, is that we in Pakistan, as we speak right now, we are not, we are absolutely gender neutral. I don't say this. So it has to be awareness plus capacity building. Because tomorrow if there is a person who chooses a woman as a lawyer, as a counsel, then he should have the confidence that he is going to the right lawyer also. And so what we have great support for gender equality, but again I emphasize a two-pronged attack. One is awareness that there should be gender equality. A woman should not be discriminated just because she's a woman, and that's why we are here. And we will do everything to to make sure that that doesn't happen. And for that, we'll have to change the minds, the mindset of particular people. So therefore, if there is, we have in Karachi, I tell you, some great lawyers who are women. And actually, when they compete equally with men when they are attracting clientage. And I know people, I know clients who would rather go to this woman lawyer because she's more competent. And that happens every day. So we need more competent women lawyers, and that can only be through education and capacity building. So I'm just a shout away as far as you are concerned, sir, ma'am, as far as you're concerned, and any one of us. Anything that we can do, we are thinking of. In fact, we've done a lot in terms of the women empowerment agenda that we have, in terms of GBV courts, children courts. My sister Valerie has already spoken. And in terms of the laws that we introduced, there is a law that our ministry introduced, and that was with regard to women properties rights. And it is irrespective of the class, the education, the income group from which the woman would hail. Irrespective of that, she would be able to get redress of her property rights from the women ombudsman. And she has been given, the woman ombudsman has been given all the policing powers to ensure that the property rights, the property in terms of ownership or possession, it goes to the woman concerned, so that no one, whether there is a brother, whether there's a father, whether there is an uncle who is usurping the property of a particular woman, cannot do that. And again, for that, we would need awareness that this law exists, this facility exists, and for that, I request you, ma'am, Valerie, the British High Commission, Australians, and any one of us who can maybe work with us for a better awareness of this law. This is a woman-specific, woman-centric law, and it has to be, and if it is implemented in letter and spirit, just imagine, in 3 months' time, a woman would, of any class, who are educated, affluent or not affluent, she would get her property rights within 3 months. Whereas, as it stands now, it is the mindset. There is a male relative who is physically powerful, monetarily powerful. He is usurping the property of that woman. So, in terms of laws, we have a list of laws. I think we will do a separate presentation on that. And I fully support this initiative, this award thing that you're doing. And if there's anything that we can do, please tell us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Honourable Minister, for those comments. So we're now going to move to the signature of the tripartite MOU. So I'll invite Barrister Ambreen Abbasi from the Ministry of Law and Justice and Valerie Anita to commence the signing of the MOUs. And in the meantime, if anyone listening in remotely would like to send through questions on our Facebook live stream, we'll be moving to the question and answer session after this.
I've been to this. Been to the High Commissioner's
Yeah.
residence many a time.
Mhm.
It's the first time.
First time for me. Excited for a meal.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right. Well, wonderful. So now that we've had the signature of the MOU, we'll move into our question and answer session. I can see we haven't yet had any questions come through on the screen. So perhaps if I could start by posing a question to the panel, and I'll encourage everyone listening in remotely to send through their questions, and perhaps if there are additional questions in the room. But I was hoping that the project implementers could just expand on the different sort of partners that are being brought together in the project, and in particular the opportunities through this initiative to create a role for the private sector in increasing women's representation in law. So I'll hand over to Nita and Valerie perhaps to answer that question.
You did.
All right. Well, I guess what needs to be highlighted is that first there is a government endorsement and an institutional endorsement, which means it's a project which is also going to be sustained basically. So that's the priority as far as we're concerned, and we are directly working with a group of women lawyers, women professionals. It's about not only giving them the opportunity to voice their concern, but also being recognized and accessing opportunities and access to information that may actually enable them to overcome institutional or educational obstacle, or share even employment opportunities and educational opportunities. And in addition to that, I can already announce that we've been contacted by some High Court who actually need a pool of pro bono lawyers. So building upon what the Honourable Minister said, we are going to launch a call of interest via the Women in Law Network, and based on that, we're going to make sure that we define a set of criteria, because those pro bono lawyers would have to deal with cases relating to women and children via a legal facilitation centre, and we would ensure that first we definitely train, that would be part of the process, them on all the women and children related laws, on how to counter gender-based violence, how to provide child and gender justice. And then based on that, that would mean those lawyers would be officially notified by the relevant high courts. So
I think that's a great development. I'd just like to come in and comment on this. I think that this initiative does a lot of things, but one thing that it does is it creates a centre point for the entire country and also internationally to recognise women lawyers in different areas of law who have great achievements but are invisible in our country. In addition to lawyers of Pavla, there's some great women lawyers in the country who need to be recognised. So I think this creates that centre point, that portal. And I think the web app that is being proposed to be created, I think is a great addition, because in that manner you can find out in what area of law you have a woman lawyer who has great achievements, and you can then directly approach them. And that's a much needed initiative, because we see manuals across our country where it's very difficult for men to somehow find a woman with an area of expertise, whether it's law, economics, health, education. For some reason, we can't find women speakers in our country. So I think this will address that gap that exists. And also, the awards will enable the country to see how there are great women lawyers in our country, and we just don't appreciate and recognize them enough. And I think the Law Minister will also benefit from this. And understand and highlight that. But thank you to the Law Minister for doing all of this, because I think he's a great gender equality champion.
Absolutely.
And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have this discussion taking place. And I also feel very empowered as Parliamentary Secretary for Law and Justice, because I am empowered to lead an agenda that focuses on advancement of women. And I think that's very important for both of us, and for our ministry and for the PTI government. So. Thank you.
Any comments?
Yeah, please.
Please.
Okay, so I'll just add to that. I'm so glad that the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary has already made the point on visibility which this project aims to achieve, because the idea is to also resurrect the historical contributions of women law, not just the ones that we have, right now. We also want to document through the web app and the portal the historical contributions of women, and keep that history with us and build on that. So I think that is a very important aspect of the project, but I think more than that, it's important to stress that the Women Law Awards are not just for women. We are also including the institutions that scale high on diversity inclusion index. So that includes your bar councils, law schools, bar associations, and other institutions that are affiliated. So we have awards and a separate set of categories for entities or projects and networks and NGOs that are working on similar issues, so that we can reward their contribution towards the similar cause as well, and to keep our men side by side in our struggle.
Yes.
Just to reverse Qaid-e-Azam's quotation.
Thank you so much for that, Nina. So we do have some questions here on the screen. So perhaps I'll ask this one that's just come in from Sahar Bandial. What are plans for gender sensitisation of judges, especially at the level of the lower judiciary? Could such a course be made part of the curriculum taught at judiciary academies? So I'll throw it open to whoever would like to take the first answering that.
I think we are very serious to sensitize the legal system, whether they're lawyers, whether they're judges, in terms of gender equality and child protection programs, laws and rules that we have. And as I was saying, that we have the laws and the rules, we need to implement them properly. I don't think I've come across any law or rule which would discriminate against women, but that's not enough. On the ground, we need that to be implemented so that there is proper, appropriate gender equality, and every step is taken so that the legal system, whether they're judges, whether it's the executive, whether they're lawyers, they're sensitized. They're made known, they're made aware of the laws that are in place, so that none is there to violate those laws. I think so it's an ongoing struggle, it's an ongoing happening. It will not stop at a particular point in time, but it has to be, it's a snowball effect. One has to just keep at it till such time we have the desired results.
Does anyone else want to? Yes.
I just want to build on to what the Law Minister just said, that yes, gender sensitization, I think it's a very, very good question by Sahar Bandial. It's very critical to access to justice within Pakistan. We need more gender sensitized judges, lawyers, courtroom staff, the entire law enforcement duty bearers, everybody who is part of the legal profession, everybody who is part of the criminal justice system needs to be sensitized to the needs of women. And I think that approach has to come from the government, because the duty falls upon us. I know the judicial academies do a lot of work, and there are parallel projects running across the country in where judges have been trained, sensitized, and also duty bearers have been sensitized. But just like the Law Minister said, it's an ongoing process. We need to do this effectively over the years, build upon it, and keep it going. And I think it has to be done at the level of all the judicial academies that we have. We have to sensitize judges through judicial academies and duty bearers through the various training academies that we have, and put a great push on ensuring that service delivery is catered to the needs of women and children in our country. You see, you hear of cases, you hear of events where women have been discriminated against, and the law has sometimes not been appropriately applied, in many violence against women cases, because of the inherent bias of duty bearers or some judges at the lower judiciary level as well. That needs to be eliminated completely, but that will be a long process. That will hopefully we will build upon it as we go forward. Thank you.
So,
Can I just come in with a question?
Sure.
I'm really interested in, at the end of university, graduating, what's the male to female ratio for lawyers?
If I can answer that, if it's the exact kind of data that will be extracted by virtue of this project, because we currently don't have this data available. But this project, through the web app and portal, we will need that data. So we will be collecting that as we proceed with this project. So there is a launch, and I'm looking forward to better data with us when the next time we meet. So we'll hopefully be able to share more updates on the data front.
Because at the moment we don't have complete, accurate quantification of how many women join the league. I mean, we know that women and men join in equal numbers almost, but then men progress. But like any other country, and women fall behind. So this is the reason that we're here today. But we need exact data on that, and this project will help us identify that.
Just to answer Saha's question as far as and link it with this particular project, in the symposium, we have one of the themes on which we are soliciting academic research and input and suggestions. One of the themes is on gender and justice. And we're looking forward to the academic input from the legal fraternity and whatever submissions that we receive through those academic papers to build on this, so that, because this project, I want to say, this initiative is basically just the launch and just the initial phase of progressing towards women's representation in law. We cannot possibly achieve everything in this 1 year of this project, and it's a work in progress, and we'll have to constantly build on it. But this is the idea is to pave the way and set the ground for affirmative actions to be taken, because yes, we need awareness, we need capacity building, but more than that, what we need are affirmative actions, which the Constitution also empowers us to basically address the structural imbalances that hold women back. So even if they are competent or they are available and they are within the profession, they should have that structural support for their advancement as well.
But I think the reason why GDP agreed to partner with this initiative also and found it really groundbreaking is because it was also capitalizing upon what was already happening before, when you explain the history. So there is currently, and when we've been part of that process, there is an ongoing set of training that have been delivered in a very intensified manner in all the judicial academies of the country on gender-based violence, on gender equality, and on gender and child services. And the data, part of that data is available for the child courts at least on our group development website. And the statistics show that the more training you give, then an increased number of children and girls are actually accessing those justice services, because trust is being built and because the environment is being provided. And that's why the Honourable Minister supported us in the ICT child court. And the court decisions, we have several, I think when we talk about capacity building, it's not only training, it's also about technical mentoring, afterwards on a long-term basis. And we see that when you do that, you actually end up with very gender-sensitive court decisions. So we see the link with the trainees, the judge trainees, ongoing technical mentoring, and then court decisions where, for example, accused are convicted with a very rationalized and organized follow-up of the evidence for honor-killing cases or rape cases and that kind of thing. So the result is tangible. We have the data, the evidence, and that shows that we need to go exactly towards the direction that the Honourable Minister defined.
So again, as I was saying, two things: awareness and capacity building, and that is what both the ladies have. They've actually endorsed what I've been saying. We need both. So what we need is equal opportunity for women, so that they are not discriminated against just because they're women. Yeah. And we also need a paradigm shift, that if there is a woman who's a lawyer or a judge, we need to know that she's equally competent. And for that, I think the direction is correct. We are going in that direction, but it may take a little time more than perhaps so that we get to the point where we want to.
Fantastic. So we started a few minutes late, so perhaps if we could just go with one more question before we wrap up. I'll suggest perhaps we respond to this question from Sharafat Ali. Being a Supreme Court judge is a big thing. How can female lawyers be encouraged to participate in legal practice when predominantly courtroom environments seem hostile? Very interested in the views of the panel on this question.
So it says being a Supreme Court judge is a big thing. How can female lawyers be encouraged to participate in legal practice when predominantly courtroom environment seems hostile?
There is, as I was saying, 3 decades ago, this question of Mr. Sharafat Ali would have some relevance, but I don't think that in today's day and age, the environment is so hostile that women cannot practice law in such environment. I don't think if you go to any of the courts in Pakistan, whether it's Karachi or anywhere, our consultant Amreen has been a litigator. She has been an assistant advocate general in KP, I think.
In the Supreme Court, I was representing.
And she's argued cases in the Supreme Court, and there the judges actually encouraged her. They saw this young lady, intelligent lady, who's talking a lot of sense, and they encouraged her. So the mindset has actually changed. It is not the same mindset as it was 3 decades ago. But then, of course, awareness, we have to keep pressing the accelerator, the awareness and capacity building, which you have yourself endorsed.
I just want to comment on that. I think the Law Minister is completely accurate about the manner in which judges treat women lawyers in courtrooms in terms of treatment, parity in treatment, the environment they provide, how they control the court. So the judiciary of this country, especially in the High Court and the Supreme Court, is very amenable to women practicing in the courtroom. But you hear of events where our colleagues who are male undertake, just the right word now, I have to be very careful, since the Law Minister is here. Our male colleagues who are also watching this are not very fair in the manner in which they treat their female colleagues, and this is a serious complaint that is made by women lawyers across the country. And it needs to be put on the table that the manner in which they sometimes treat women lawyers is hostile. The manner in which they pass remarks at them is sexist. The manner in which they articulate their intelligence, it reeks of misogyny. So yes, the judges do not treat women lawyers like that, but our male colleagues have to improve their performance. They have to improve their attitudes, and they have to give women equal space in courtrooms, and that they have to show that muscle is not power and intellect and equal opportunity is what women also deserve in courtrooms. So it's not really, I think this question is more about male lawyers showing hostility, which they do, and I think that would change. Again, from the very top, the message has to come from the Ministry of Law and Justice and from the PTI government, and I think that's very clear. You have the Federal Law Minister of this country telling all the male lawyers of this country that we want women to be represented at all levels. So I guess the attitudes have to change now.
All right. Well, thanks to everyone for what has been a very, I think, a wonderful and fitting launch for this very exciting initiative. Can I please just take the chance to thank all of our guests, Honourable Minister, Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, High Commissioner for Australia, Deputy High Commissioner for the British High Commission, our colleague from Ministry of Law and Justice, and our wonderful implementing partners from GD Pakistan and the Women in Law Initiative, Valerie. Thank you all so much for your time today. Thanks to everyone also who was able to join us via the live stream. And yes, many thanks to everyone for your time.
Laura, thank you. If I can just add one final comment.
Absolutely, Jeff. Yeah.
Gender equality is central for every country.
Yes.
And it's a challenge for every country. Pakistan is not alone. So Pakistan is not alone on that, and law is not alone. Gender equality across the spectrum is so difficult, and we struggle in Australia on this issue.
Yes.
I would encourage your initiative to reach out to similar initiatives in Australia. And let's try and build some sort of international collaboration, and swapping ideas and stories and experiences, I think, could be beneficial. So I would encourage that, and I'm sure Lauren will be able to help in that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So thank you very much for this,
Thank you
this
very
work.
much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are we taking a group photo or something? Okay, so, Minister, we're taking a group photo. I think if we do it here,
Yes.
could move the flags.